how to sell out your 15, 25, 30, 50K offer, 100K offer at a live event, and to create a stampede to the back of the room. Okay. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to tell you how I've sold out my own masterminds, how I've helped others sell out their masterminds. Could be high ticket coaching. It could be licensing. It could be franchising. It could be high-end services. It doesn't really matter. Like you may have, like this past week, we had one of our, I have a partnership with dental offices that I have a partnership that what we do is fill up rooms for medical doctors that sell stem cells, as well as dentists who are looking for patients. And we got to doc 18 patients in a very short amount of time. So that is not going to be the focus of today necessarily, but every single principle that we go through is going to be still just as relevant as we go through this. Now, I like giving credit before I get started. I wish I could tell you, actually, no, I think 99% of the ride is learning from other people. So like you, I didn't get here on my own, and I'm not going to get to the next level on my own. And I think it'd be very embarrassing to try and pretend that everything that we're about to go over together is my own. So I've had great mentors, Brian Tracy, Myron Golden, Joel Bauer. If you don't know who Joel is, he used to speak at our events all the time. Spent $25K, brought Joel in. He helped really craft one of my talks that did extremely well. It did have a mad rush to the back of the room. Dan Kennedy was one of my first mentors, teaching me direct response marketing, copywriting, selling from stage. And then Tim Paulson's right there in the middle. He's the guy with the Love and Grow Rich little heart there. Tim became really popular back, say, 15 years ago, because he was helping Joe Polish fill his Genius Network. And before that, he was doing when Joe was just strictly in the plumbing niche, I believe. No, carpet cleaning and blue collar niche. And Tim was the first architectural dude, along with Joe, on creating the contest and getting people to flood the back of the room, right? And so again, with Tim, I spent $50K in an effort to shortcut my learning. And I had a big event coming up, I think we were like selling a 15 or 18, maybe $25,000 program at the time, which was a lot of money back then because coaching clubs were brand new and masterminds were kind of still new. So I bought his course for $3,000, upgraded, applied what I learned there to getting him as a mentor who actually helped me lay out my whole outline, which I'll show you a lot of it today. And then design a contest around my clients, which were dentists at the time. And then he actually came to my event and he did 2 talks. I'll talk to you about both those talks as well, because I actually do something similar for clients nowadays. But Tim's a unique guy, all of his own. And then James Malachak, good friend of mine, Jack Canfield, one of my first mentors. I'm going to talk about James later. And then, I think that's it for now. So let's get rolling here. So my backstory was blue collar family, 12 to 13 kids, came out of nursing school. And I was like, man, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, which if you're watching this, you know what that means. That means that there's a lot of ups and downs. But for me at that time, it meant that I came home to a family that had no other college grads. And I said, I'm not going into nursing. I'm going to go be an entrepreneur. And, my poor parents at the time, they probably were like wondering what's going on with our child. I didn't have any problems. I just had this entrepreneurial bug. So I struggled a lot. I was doing a lot of motivational speaking. I loved positive, like psychology of winning. So I worked a lot with athletes. And my first business was actually taking the content that I was teaching in public and turn it into an information product. Okay. And so I did that for a couple of years, and I was barely getting by when I had the realization that if I'm not selling higher ticket items, I'll never be able to reach any of the income goals that I had. And for me, what that meant, at the time, especially, I had to go into a business market and help business owners make more money. Okay. And so I chose dentistry. I talk about why I chose dentistry. I talk about all those kind of like research marketing, stuff like that, how I crafted my offers in a different, I've talked about it many different times. So in my membership, I'll have probably something like how to go into a market and set yourself up for success. But really, this is what excites me about with this topic we're talking about now is bringing people together, having something amazing to sell them, creating massive value, and then inviting them into your opportunity. And so since then, I had written a book, Time Collapsing, which I'll talk about here in a little bit when I talk about events. I'm the father of 7 kids, my wonderful wife, Nola, and I've had a lot of amazing people on stages. So being on stage, working the room, holding attention of the room is one of my favorite things to do. And it's probably one of the few things I feel I'm really, really understand at a pretty decent level. And so I created a couple other events: Influencer Mastery Live, Traffic Mastery Live, E-commerce Mastery Live. And that was all right before COVID. As you know, a lot of those things went away for a period of time. But I really believe the reason I shot this video was a few things. One is I believe events are coming back like gangbusters. I believe it's cheaper and easier to get people in a room than ever before because social media is just making it possible. And, it's really a great opportunity to be here on this call with you. Okay. So if you're running, so I have a program called Offer Wingman where it's kind of like what we're doing right now. Sit with someone who's running an event, creating an offer, and we craft your event and do your offer structure together. So the reason why I'm sharing all that is because I wanted to make this little video that we're doing together as if we were having a consultation together. Okay. And so I'm going to walk you through a lot of the same questions I would ask somebody that paid me, 10, 15, and even $25,000 in some cases. And I'll actually share some of my insights of spending time with them that you could possibly just skip over and jump over. Like you don't have to have the same problems that I had, that they've had, and stuff like that. So live events, I think you really, today's call is going to be about any of these things on here, right? Whether you're doing virtual events, in-person events, whether you're doing webinars, even though we're going to talk about a little bit longer of a incubation period, challenges, 3 days, 5 days, virtual power days. And then your goal is to move them up into your higher income thing. I use Loom videos a lot to sell. Like if we have higher ticket stuff and someone asks me a question, I think they're a good candidate. Say we do a quick phone call. I like closing via Loom videos because I could think through a couple of things. I don't want to pressure people, especially on a one-on-one. But in person, though, you get to do things differently, okay? Like I say, are nothing better than live events. With a group, there's a little more safety in the group. Meaning, if you and I were in a conversation, I was like, hey, listen, man, you got till 5 o'clock today to buy. You're either going to be like, I'm in, I'm in, Ed, or you're going to be like, I was looking at the time. I don't know what I'm doing. You're gonna be like, this guy's kind of a tool. He's like putting all this pressure on me. And then your experience afterwards may have more, what would you call it? Like a little bit more maybe doubt. Like, oh, why did I buy this? I didn't really need it. Da, 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 because they put all this pressure on you. Now, that's not always the case. And I don't want to stereotype, but with events, you can create an environment where you could put a little more pressure on the room to take actions and say, look, is this certain things end and there's timelines, and we understand some human behavior. And that is, if there's no timeline, people don't act and move, right? Quick little story for you. So it says DP Ascension Strategy. So DP was the name of my company, my dental company called Dentist Profits. And what I realized that it didn't really matter what they purchased. If they bought something for like $10, like I sometimes do these like little, like whether it's a book, whether it's a video, whether it's a course, I'd always give them an opportunity to come to a one-day event the day before my live event. And what I found was that it was the easiest process to move people from not really knowing me to jumping into my $15,000, $25,000 package. And maybe even more expensive than that, because I was thinking about our licensing packages, and we had those different packages. And so I really want to encourage you, like if you got this because you're considering doing an event and you've never done one, or you have something coming up, there's just nothing better than getting people, face to face, nose to nose, and then them to experience other people. I have a really good friend of mine. He's a mentor, a friend, and when it comes to kind of this stuff, I'm kind of a mentor for him. But they're just doing city by city dinners, and they do a whiteboard before the dinner. It's $1,000 to attend, and then people naturally upgrade. They don't sell them. They don't do a big pitch. They naturally upgrade. Now, I'm going to send this training to them because I think there's probably some very subtle things they can do, because he doesn't need the money. Like, it's really good for him because he doesn't need the money. But I also think it's one of the beliefs that a lot of you guys have. If you like, I don't want to be salesy or pushy. I'll talk about that here in a few minutes. Okay. This training and some of the stuff that we're going to talk about is perfect for you if you know you're leaving some money on the table by not getting fence sitters across the buying line. But I would also say that if you know you're leaving money on the table because maybe selling is not really what you want to do from stage, you don't want that image, you don't want that whatever, you might be losing a whole lot of opportunity. And more importantly, like if I was going to really hammer this home and give you some stern coaching as a friend, I'd say, look, if you really believe that the best thing you could do for the person on the other end is get them to invest more in themselves because you really have something that can transform their lives, it's our obligation to make a sales pitch for that, right? This is your opportunity. They've invested in themselves. If they're coming to something live or even virtual, if they're taking out their credit card and they're paying for something, man, they've been made an emotional and financial investment, time commitment. They've traded something. Okay. And, so anyhow, why would I share all this high quality insight for so little? So in case you're worried about a sales pitch on this, I'm just going to tell you what are ways that we could work together right now. And then you can relax and just enjoy the training. The other thing I want to just tell you is that, by taking unique insight and having people spend money, whether it's, $10, $100, $1,000, is one of the fastest ways to demonstrate your expertise. And so in this, I'm doing two things. One is I'm accumulating buyers for my business. Number two is creating goodwill. And then number three is there's a certain percentage of you that are just naturally going to move up to, like, say, the coaching club. You're going to want more access. Maybe you want consulting or masterminding with my higher level clients. And then for those that are already cranking, you got a big thing or you got cash and you're looking for like more hands-on assistance for your event, well, then I have the wingman offer, which is more of a private client group. And then you get a lot more attention on the stuff we're going to talk about today. So I just want to encourage you, don't be afraid to sell lower ticket items, because when a lot of gurus say, hey, low ticket doesn't bring in big ticket buyers, they're lying. They're full of it. And the reason is because usually they only sell high ticket. They want you to jump right from zero to high ticket. And what I would say is that if you look at some of the wealthiest people in the world, there's more ways to get to them. I mean, my goodness, right? And then we also do live intensive. So if people want to come in a group format, because there's safety in numbers, right? Safety in numbers. Always important to understand that is we have those options as well. Okay. Now let's move on. So 90% of creating a stampede or the effect of people buying right now, right then, is the who we invite in the room, like who gets in the room, what they purchased, or how they bought prior to the room, or maybe the room in itself. Like, are they solution-based buyers? Are they abundant mentality, which we still got to sell that? I'll talk about that later. Or are they like freebie seekers? And are you selling like the next quickest way to make $10,000 a month as quickly as possible without doing any work. Like, those are going to be some of the biggest pain in the ass buyers. Like, you don't, so we want the right people to be in the room when we're running these types of events. And the other thing I would say is, on that note, man, this is actually, we'll go to this in a second. When we marketed it, if you go out and get all these celebrities to be on your calendar, I had a mentor a long time ago, Ben Altadonna, killed it in Cairo for a long time. He told me, he goes, hey man, don't go get like all these celebrities for your event, because it attracts the wrong buyer. Now, I'll let you determine that, and I have no judgment if you go get like Tom Brady. He's actually perfect for selling masterminds, because he talks about coach, team, winner, right? Which you'll see as handling adversity, all those really cool things. So he's a badass, right? But I'm talking about like somebody that's not going to track your ideal buyer. It's shiny object. You bring them in and they're not helping your sale. On this training today, me and you, in my relationship with you, my goal is to help you make more money and sell more of your stuff that is impacting the people that you're bringing into your tribe. Cool? Cool. So when I say these things, just keep that in mind, okay? So who are we bringing in and what's the context? So when I talk about context, I'm talking about the structure in which we create the environment, okay? Super duper important. I'm going to tell you that your favorite part of this is when I walk through the outline and we talk about all the different elements of flowing it, so that they should be running to the back, asking your team, asking you, coming up on breaks. How do I jump into your mastermind? How do I jump into your coaching club? How do I get hire you for the thing? They should be naturally doing that, but it's because you orchestrate the context and the content. Okay. And then we got to make sure that we build ridiculous amount of trust, authority, and third-party edification before you bring up the invite yourself. Okay. Super duper important. And then the fifth part, which I think is overlooked a lot of times, I have messed this up, raising my hand, fellas, messed this up for gajillions of times. Like, I mean, my God, is having just a simple, clear, powerful offer that has scarcity. The mistake, I'll go into mistakes in a little bit, so don't worry about it. But clear and powerful with scarcity. Very, very important. Okay. What do most experts do wrong that kills event sales? Now, before I share this, I just got to say, I've done all of these. I'm talking from personal experience. I have no judgment about this. I've gone to events with clients, watched them do this, and had to talk to them and be like, dude, you are teaching way too much. And that's number one, right? Okay, so here's the reason, okay? It comes from a good place. You are a good person. You are trying to transform people. You think that your ability to get people to purchase more from you and leap to the next level with you is to teach too much. Now, the problem is there's two massive problems with this, and I'll tell you what it is. Number one, show me somebody who wants a longer to-do list. All right. Show me someone who wants a longer to-do list. And so, and I'll show you a loser, to be honest with you. It means because they don't have action going on. They're not winning. They're not getting results. And so what happens is, if I teach too much, I make the brain tired. And as I say at the bottom of this thing, tired brains don't buy. And number two is, if I give them too big of an implementation list, they need to go back and organize their list before they can decide what their next steps are. And we want to focus on implementation, but we want them to focus on leverage, less, and freedom. And that your coaching club, your mastermind, your next steps are through that gateway. So there's some frameworks I'm going to teach you in a second that we start off right from the beginning. We start off right from the beginning of laying those seeds so that they're really into it. Now, the other thing I would say is they focus too much on what we need to get through. And this is a similar problem with teaching too much. Okay, we just need to get through all this stuff, guys. We're going to let you out on break, but we got to get through this first. No, you don't. Your job is to deliver an experience that creates insight, that creates breakthroughs. And there's no correlation between getting through content and creating insight, breakthroughs, and transformation. Okay? Like what would be almost more powerful in some ways is you do an exercise for like, say, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, where they're in groups of 3, groups of 4, and they come out the back door of that being like, oh my gosh, I just freed up 20 hours of my life. I'm just kind of making this up on the spot. But that is, without question, going to have a bigger impact towards you awakening their awareness to that there's a different way of doing things. Hard work, if working hard was the only path to making more money, then everybody would be rich, because usually people at these events, including ourselves, we're hard workers, right? It's always the wrong piece of the puzzle. I'll get into that a little bit later. Incongruent schedule and speakers, sloppy outlines, prioritizing speakers. This is a big one. Prioritizing speakers, vendors, etc., over your primary goal. That's the same exact thing with the schedule. The schedule is just really one of those things that if you lay it out correctly, the sales will happen effortlessly in a lot of ways, okay? The other mistake I've made a lot of, and I had a client, a lawyer, great guy, super freaking bright, loved him, right? And he was struggling getting sales at his events. And so when he came to me, he's like, yeah, man, I don't really know. Something's changed. And he was falling into the trap of over delivery, everything I just mentioned: too much teaching, too much content, too much tiredness, too many speakers about 45 different types of topics. And he ended up selling like more for his vendors and his speakers than he did for himself. I was like, all right, listen, we're going to restructure this whole outline to get people begging to be in your coaching club, in your mastermind, and in your thing. That's how you do it. Number 2, so I'm going to go into that. So I'm not teasing you. I'm actually going to go into that. Passive or weak offer without true scarcity value. Again, and this kind of leads to the third part here, is afraid to sell, how and why you are going to transform lives. The reason why I'm a big proponent of bringing in guys like Tim Paulson when he was doing this, James Malinchak to help me. Why did I hire Joel Bauer when I already had a thriving, successful mastermind and coaching club? I wanted to get better, and I found myself becoming more passive about offering it the more successful I got. Can you relate to that? Like, if I already have 50 guys in the club, why do I still stand up there? And it wasn't nearly as passionate as I was when I created my first Stampede. And then the reason I went and got like more coaching and support from different people, and you guys are kind of getting the accumulation of all those different personalities, because some personalities were just not mine, and they were a little more flashy and whiz bang, and I didn't want to be flashy and whiz bang, and like Joe Bauer does a lot of magic tricks. Love Joe Bauer, brilliant guy, but he's not everybody's style. So I couldn't just always be Joel. And then Tim had the outline and contest mentality, so I brought him on for 50K after already having Joe and already knowing Joe, like Dan Kennedy. I already had all these people. So why would I keep doing it? Because I found myself becoming passive and weak. And when it became time to sell, I became weak. Well, if it's in there for you, great. If it's not for you, great. That's fine if you're doing that from a, it's not actually fine, but that is a posturing position that works when you're got lead flow coming in and you're trying to do 15-minute or 30-minute quick calls. And you're saying like, look, dude, here's the 2 incentives. If you're in, great. If not, I can't promise if the fee is going to be higher later. And like, that's kind of your pitch. But at a live event, this is their one opportunity to jump in with you. And for my existing guys, here's my pitch. And from the new people, here's what you got to know. And you existing people, sometimes you're telling yourselves, I don't need to hear what Ed's saying right now, but the fact matters, you need to hear it more importantly than ever, because and then you see, like, that's a stronger frame. You see where I'm going with that? And we also edify and make them feel more special too. I'll talk about in a second. Okay. And then afraid to sell, how and why you are going to transform their lives. Now, the only time I ever had really problems with this was early on when I was broke, had to sell. So my excitement and my energy was coming from the place of, I got to sell them something because I got to pay my bills. I would never sell somebody I didn't think was it good or not. What my point being there was, if you're not selling something that can transform their lives, what I would encourage you to do is go get licensing or go get some other people's stuff so that you're actually developing products or services that are great and just become really good at running events and selling if you're watching this type of event. Okay. Again, I already said this. So not realizing the purpose of the event, no pre-event setup. Okay. We're going to talk about what happens before the event is critically important to setting up even the sale on, say, day 2 of an event. Okay. So we'll talk about that. Help them time collapse. Oh, well, what are we doing when we do mentoring? We're time collapsing for people. We're which is my book, Time Collapsing. You don't need to go buy it, but I'm just telling you it because it has some really simple things. How do you achieve more things faster? And what I found was in my own life, number one thing is if you don't have a mentor, you gotta get one. And if you don't have a model, which should be on this sheet right here, because that's something I talk about in person. If you don't have a model, then how the heck do you know what you want to build, right? And then if you don't have your mastermind and a tribe, people that make you better, iron sharpens iron, then you're never going to be able to take massive action because you're going to doubt yourself, you're going to fail, you're going to start, you're going to quit. Now, those are all things that are super, super duper important. And that is the purpose of running these events. That is the primary purpose. And then the primary purpose of that, if they buy into the mentor, model, mastermind, tribe, massive action, boom, they're going to jump into your coaching club because they realize, oh, crap, I don't have a mentor. Ooh, here's the mentor. Oh, I don't really have a tribe. I find myself around my neighbors a lot or my community. I'm part of my church, but I'm not finding a mentor who's in XYZ industry. Okay, so that's why you got to do it. And then I'm not getting better. I need a tribe. And so we have ways of pointing all that stuff out. So not crystal clear on the offer before the event starts. Oh, I just wanted to point this out because this other mistake that I've made and I've seen others make is that I'm selling the coaching club or the licensing thing or the thing in 24 hours or 36 hours or whatever. And the application and offer is not done yet. I've done this, so I'm not like judging you in a way that but the mistake is what I would recommend doing, guys, is almost do this almost first. Like, okay, where are we trying to go? Okay, we're trying to fill the room with 30 people, 50 people, 100 people. Our mastermind is going to be $30,000. Okay, so then what would be a successful event? Okay, I want to make $1 million. Okay, that means we got to need 33 sales, 33.3 sales, or 34 sales. Okay. Well, I need about 100 to 120 people in the room if I want to make sure I hit my thing. Okay, what are we selling? Is there 2 levels? Is it 1 level? You want to know all that stuff beforehand because you are going to have people beforehand ask you like, hey, I want to be part of your mastermind or your coaching club. What do you guys have available? And you could say, well, we're going to be announcing it for the first time at the event. Super excited you're going to be there. Or you could say, happy to share it with you. Let me send over some questions, and assuming that you qualify or whatever it might be, we can enroll you beforehand and give you a pre-event discount if you want to do that. You don't need to do that. Big mistake here. Trying to sell your mastermind or coaching club or licensing thing or high ticket offer all by yourself. I'll talk about my dental client, right? So my pitch guy, Dr. Martin, is not a dentist, and he never spoke once to the actual dentist he was pitching for, right? We have our PowerPoints, we know the stuff, we know their prices, we know their thing. And so my point being is sometimes the best person not to sell or to sell your stuff is not you. Okay. Now, wait, no, don't get me wrong. I love having you be the pitch person, just so you know that. But I'm just saying in some ways, it's not always that way. But in an event setting, when you look at the outline, you're going to see we use your testimonials, we use case studies, we use third-party edification as much as humanly possible. We use a wingman, which I used in my career. I used James Malinchak twice, 25K, 25K. Why would you pay that much money? Well, because if you get one more mastermind member, he pays for himself. He's free. He's making the event better, right? With Tim Paulson, I justified it because I was like, well, if I get two more, that's 50K. He pays for himself. Same thing with Joe Bauer when I paid him 25K. Okay, so like for a day of consulting on the actual pitch. So that's how I feel about that. And the other thing is that the worst thing you can ever do is not talk about the coaching club or the high ticket offer, or it not being talked about by multiple people. And then you get up there and try and pitch it. It's salesy. It looks pushy. It looks forced, and you're not going to feel the flow in the room. I've seen it happen. I had to literally stop a client once and have him go on break to say, look, dude, and I was paying on commissions, like a fee plus commission. So I have an incentive to help them. I was like, there's people with their suitcases at the door. We are 15 minutes away from lunch. You were supposed to start this pitch 70 minutes ago. I've had to do, oh my gosh, I've had to do this multiple times. And it's, we took a quick break. We regrouped. I put two case studies up there for him to segue into the pitch, and he pitched it. And I think he closed a third of the room at 50K a pop. And, but he was about to lose his whole room because he was trying to get through and plow through his stuff. And then he wasn't utilizing the support in the room, which was the testimonials we were going to bring up and all these other things. Okay. Is this good so far? Is this valuable for you so far? Hopefully, it's grabbing a lot of like, wow, I didn't think of that. Yeah, I've done that. Okay. I got to make sure I don't, because this isn't about like teaching you everything that's brand new. Some of the stuff you probably already know. But the question is, pros do what they already know and they make sure they follow a checklist and get it done. And then while, amateurs wing it, right? And we're just way past the wing it phase of life. Especially if you're getting a little bit older, like myself, and you've done this for now 20 years and you're like, okay, I'm not doing this half-assed anymore. We're going to do this right. Okay. Okay. Before we start, we got to make sure we know the event details, kind of the outline. We're going to go into that more in depth. Who is your existing client, and what is their, or who's our future buyer? And are we attracting strugglers? This is very important pre-event. Are we purposefully listening, like if with our content, our ads, and our courses, are we attracting strugglers, or are we attracting slight edgers that are buying into? And by the way, when we get them in the room, we're going to resell them on slight edge thought process, abundant thought process, competitive edge thought process over struggle thought process. Okay. Because if you take clients in your ecosystem that are on the constant struggle bus, there's a pattern there, right? If they hate all these other consultants that they've hired before you, that is a sign for you to move on. You are not going to be their, I don't want to use the word Messiah. You're not going to be their savior. They are probably going to find that you are the next expert that they fail with. Okay. So just listen to that languaging prior, listen to how we're setting up the room. Did their first purchase set them up for success? And so what I mean by that is kind of what I said earlier about like, did we sell them something that moved them to like say a one-day virtual event, or say this is the, not virtual, this is the in-person event or virtual event. And the first part gave them insight with possibly a couple quick wins so that they're coming here ready to meet you. I remember the first time I met Dan Kennedy, it was very underwhelming. He walked right by me. It was pretty. I was like, oh, okay. One day you're gonna know who I am, though, buddy. And he did. But I remember like going to meet like Ron LeGrand, and I flew there, and I was so excited, and I was, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be the next gajillionaire in this. I'm gonna be the best student in the world. And I was so pumped up, and I went right up to him, and told him that. So when I came into those environments, extremely indoctrinated, ready to move forward with them, right? And because they had already created some momentum and some help. Are you crystal clear on the offer? Talked about this a little bit. We're not going to go too in depth on the offer in this training, guys, just so you know that. Like, the offer is super clear or super important, but it's also hard. I mean, that's a whole training in itself. So I just want you to know, like, if I'm selling a $50,000 thing and I'm selling a $25,000 thing, do I know where I'm going with this? Because then you want to make sure that everything leading up to that, including day one, sets them up for making that the solution to their next solution problem, right? Do you have success stories? Testimonial, case study contest. We'll talk about in a minute. Actually, I could talk about this in a second. So one of the first things that Tim Paulson had me do is he was like, hey, because I already had a successful mastermind. I was trying to make it more successful. Okay. And so one of the things he did is he said, hey, we're gonna do a contest. Okay. And he called it the Better Your Best contest. I like open the kimono, like we're gonna show you everything or contest. And you create a contest, and it's for your existing clients to win who are going to attend. Now, this does a couple of things simultaneously, and I'm not going to go 30 minutes into a contest because this is not a contest, necessarily contest training, but we can keep it super, super simple. Number one is I gave away a Porsche Cayenne, a 3-year lease to it. It was sexy, attractive. People were excited about it. Do I think you should do the same thing? No, I don't. I really don't. I think unless you have a massive, like a really big coaching club and it's already thriving and cranking, I would think a little creatively about a few other things. Like Tim also recommended like the Rolodex, a few other things like that. Like people like them, want them, maybe a trip somewhere. Maybe a free consultation day. So you have like three big rewards, or whatever you want to call it. And then you have everyone's a winner. So if you submit your video case study about how our membership, mastermind, training, one-on-one consulting, whatever your experience with Ed O'Keefe has given you XYZ, and you want to share it and be considered a finalist in this, we're taking 6 or 9 or 12. Now, the exact number is kind of dependent on your business and your, is it a 1-day event, 2-day event, 3-day event, right? So if I have a 3-day event, well, I could probably have, 6, 9, or 12 contestants who are all going to come up and do 12-minute like TED Talk like models. And there's a framework for it, really simple stuff, but they're giving a ton of value to the audience. That's number one. And the audience has a vote, which is super exciting because guess what? It engages the entire audience. And they have reason to keep coming back. And when they vote, they get points. And then like there's ways to engage the whole group so that everybody's a winner. Even if you're on the contest, if you're in the contest, you're a winner. And if you're one of the top 3, you win the big prizes. One could be the car, one could be like, I know Go High Level right now is doing the Tesla. They're giving Teslas to all their top affiliates. The reason why I do not necessarily recommend doing the Better Your Best for a car, is it gets a little tricky around you're giving a full car away to somebody and then a Rolodex, like it's a little tricky because what I found the couple of years I did it, sales were off the charts. Okay, sales were off the charts, and I always found this is not a great thing. that there was always frustration with some of the other contestants that they didn't win. And I don't want to say animosity, but that is definitely something we've got to handle prior. And that's also why when you choose your layer of winning gifts, we think through them so they're not such a massive disparity. Like, hey, you won the car, second place got a freaking $100 gift card to Amazon. You see how that's going to cause frustration? So you want it to really feel like everybody's a winner. Okay. Here's another really big thing. Ignore those numbers just because this was messed up on my slides. How many times will the audience have seen this pitch? And why am I asking that? Because the first time through, you're going to have less awkwardness in the room when the pitch comes if it's not set up properly. That's why you use a wingman. And this is Tim Paulson, James Malachek. I had also hired Bill Rancic. Okay. If the audience have seen your pitch multiple times, you got to have a different way of coming up with it. Otherwise, what ends up happening is your existing clients or people that have seen you before start to check out. Now, part of me wants to encourage you, like, who gives a shit? Excuse my language. Because your goal is to transform the people that are not in the room, or they're not in your membership, to jump. But that's kind of short-sighted thinking. What we want to do is how do we set up the environment, which is why the panel works so well, which is why the contest works so well, which is why engaging your existing members to help create the environment and create a little bit of ambassador mojo. So that when they're there, they take ownership of they become your best salespeople. And so everything we've gone up to today, guys, do you notice how none of this we haven't even talked about the content of your speeches yet, or the pitch. It's pretty powerful, right? So it's pretty cool. So, and then, but okay, so that's so that's one of the questions I would ask you, like, is it your first time, second time, third time, fourth time, right? Now, one of the lawyer guy I was talking about is the reason why he got soft on and a little bit disjointed is because he was kind of feeling internal guilt that his existing members had to see the pitch. Well, and then it totally wrecked his schedule, which then made it harder and harder. That's not the way to go about it. There's a lot of other ways to go about it to get your existing members fully engaged and pumping it up. Okay. Why do they need to believe before we pitch? Oh, what do they need to believe before they pitch? That's kind of one of the pitch angles we talk about when we're crafting offers. I have it on the slide deck. 10 questions you got to go through. It comes from the book, like the 10-word headline from the dude who was a copywriter at Agora. I'm totally forgetting his name. It's not that I don't want to give him credit. I don't remember his name. But, what do they need to believe in order to make taking the next step a logical choice with you? So those were some of the questions I would want to walk through with you and make you think. And then before the event, again, like, what are we thinking through? Like, setting the stage, outline of the event. Do you have an MC or not? And then music. Music is probably one of the most utilized components by so many mastermind and seminar event people. You got to lay it out, man. With the moment you set them to break, the moment you transition, there's got to be music playing for people. It doesn't have to be like crazy sophisticated, but there's definitely a thought process that needs to go into the music. Okay. Pre-pitch, setup talk. I'll talk about that in a second. Actual pitch, which is your invite and your opportunity, and repitch. Repitch is getting fence sitters back into the talk. So all that happens prior to the event. Now, here's a big thing. If you have run events in the past or you plan on it, one litmus to let you know, are you doing this properly or not, or are you getting the result that you're looking for, is that if they are not asking your staff and others how they can join whatever it is you're selling by the first break in the afternoon on day one, or even at lunch, you're doing it wrong. They should be begging. There should be a group of people, and you'll see it starts happening at lunch. hey, how do I get in this group where these other people are in? What do Ed mentioned this? When do I get it? Can I sign up for that now, or what's going on that? That means you're doing the right stuff, okay? And so I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna cut right now and take a 2-minute break, and then this is 45 minutes in. We're gonna go over the outline here next. So we'll just cover that first module, like everything prior to the event, and then the next 45 minutes we'll cover the rest of the training. So hopefully you guys liked it, and I appreciate it. All right, bye. All right, guys. Hey, part 2 of this. Let's rock and roll. Okay, the outline. Okay, so I'm actually going to jump to this Excel sheet because you should have this as a copy of this in the module. Okay. Now, well, maybe this might be too much information. Let me go back to here for a second. Okay. Yeah, I got to break this down a little bit. The outline is where I'll spend a lot of time just planning. Like this took me just I put this together for you today. This was just kind of like, I was like, okay, if I was building this from scratch for somebody, I had other copies of people, but what's always unique is like, everybody's a little different, so this is a pretty good idea. So let's just kind of go through this. I'll bring this up slideshow. You got 3 simple days. If this was 2 days, I wouldn't change too much. I would just move some things around. And the one thing I want to show you, let me back up to this, is again, like I put in here pre-event, like the day before, like, are you doing a fast start date for members, new members, maybe a different topic? Is there a pre-event for platinum only? Creates exclusivity, or drinks for your platinum guys, and I'm just kind of talking about that, your inclusive club, to create more exclusivity and a little goodwill for them. It's kind of one of the ways that we hedge off some of the other stuff as we sell more stuff, get them bragging about you. Okay, now day 1. So let's just go into this real quick. I'm gonna bring this up. So day 1, let me just go through the morning first. The morning would look something like, doesn't have to be perfect, right? Kickoff logistics. Here's day 1. Kickoff logistics, and then you have kind of your State of the Union talk. Okay, now you could do this a couple different ways. You can have somebody else do the kickoff and logistics intro. Not bad. You can have a video do part of it. Not bad. I'm not going to go too much more in depth on that. It's just not. It's not a deal breaker in my mind, right? The music and the environment is more important to me on that. Now, one of the things that Tim taught me was what he called like the $50 a day talk. Okay, now in like this first talk is the beginning. What I want you to think of this first talk you do, imagine it being the first 45 minutes of your sales pitch. Okay, so like what I mean by that is like look at this, and this calendar, 3-day calendar, we're not even pitching your mastermind until 2:15 the next day in this outline. Now we could change it, have it come before lunch, stuff like that. It could, if it's a 1 day, you can have it be down here. But what I recommend is you act in your mind as if that first talk is like, what's working now, State of the Union in our industry, and you act as if this talk is the beginning of your own personal setup pitch. Okay. Now, why is that important? Because no one's even going to know that you're actually selling them into the Mastermind Coaching Club, private client group, or whatever. And you're going to do it sideways. You're going to talk about your existing clients, your existing success stories, your existing whatever. And what I like doing here is what I call impromptu wins. And I prep people for this, and so that the audience thinks it was by accident. And so what that means is that you'd say, like, I got my buddy Vinny, my buddy Chris, my friend Jeff. Let's pretend they're all in my mastermind. Now, if you don't have a mastermind yet, then you got to use people that have either used your product and you set them up properly, maybe take them to dinner the night before, maybe do something nice for them, and then say, hey, look, I'm trying to get people fired up about taking action. You took action. So in my first talk, I'm going to call on you to share a win, a success story. And all I want you to think of something you've done, maybe, and you could probably talk it like hypothetically. Maybe I'm sideways selling you right now. No, I'm not kidding, but I'm just showing you how this actually works. Is by you demonstrating success stories, everybody in the room has to pretend they're your next success story as they think through it and see it. They can't not do it. Okay. What challenges that person faced? What was their limiting belief system? What did they think about before they joined or bought your program? They're going to be like, man, I'm thinking the same thing that guy was thinking. Look at how successful he got. So that has to get set up for them. And then you just say, hey, look, I'm just going to give you the microphone, and you're going to stand up and share your story. Does that sound good? And so that's how you do it. And I found this by accident, that this works better than asking people to share, because most people are introverts. Not introverts, I'm sorry, but let me back up. But I was finding in like dentistry specifically, and I've seen this in so many industries, is that it's very rare that you have an industry where people are just jumping to like talk. And what I've also found is that sometimes the people that keep raising their hands are exactly who I don't want talking, because it's more about them, and they don't realize the purpose there is to make the room better, right? And so anyhow, this is really, really powerful, right? Now, 2 more points on this initial talk. See, you guys like this part? This is where like there's so much meat right now in this initial talk. It's so good if you can understand the goal and the context. Number 1, when they share the win, if your mastermind backs out to say 30 times 50, I can't even know. Hold on a second. I'm totally blanking on something. Okay, yeah. So $50 a day is $1,500 a month. And then you go times 12. What is that? 18 grand? Yeah, 18,000. So if your coaching club is 18,000, you're trying to equate every victory and every win to a $50 idea. Was that a $50 idea? Now that's totally from Tim Paulson. Okay. And that's how he did that. Brilliant. And then what you do is you have like 5 $50, you could do like 2 20s and a 10, or you get $50 bills. And then you can even say like, okay, who thought that was $100 a day idea? Who thought, was that worth it? Was that? And then, yeah, that's good. Okay, cool. And then you get someone on your team or something taking Post-it notes or Post-it cards, putting them up on the wall. Well, look at all the $50 a day ideas that are already happening. We're not even at 9:35 a.m. How many would agree with me? That's the enrollment part. How many agree with me? That's how we do it. So that's kind of how you run that talk. And then the other thing that I think is super important in the first talk, and this is why it goes back to full circle, is that you need to share your hero's journey, even if the whole room has heard it before. Even the whole room, I don't care how I had an idea, how I struggled. I knew that God put this in my heart, but I kept hitting my head against the wall until one day I found a mentor, and that mentor pointed me down this path. And then I found my tribe, and then I found the thing, and then I decided to go rinse and repeat on what worked. And what I found is it's not about the quantity of stuff that we're consuming, but it's actually in our ability to distill things into small action steps that compound and are simple. The more complex we are, the harder it is to succeed. The simpler it is, more success, more likely you are to succeed, because you have less moving parts. So if something's not working, it's working on you, but we know where we can optimize, adjust, and get better. Does that make sense? Yes, it makes sense. Does that make sense? It makes sense. Okay, cool. So, like that's how you start doing it. And as you know, that sets up your whole belief system. Like when we go back to my other slide, what is a belief system that they need to understand prior to jumping in? Well, they need to believe that they need a mentor, they need a mastermind, they need to be tribe, that they're better in a group than they are on their own. The lone wolf dies while the pack survives. All of those things, simplicity is better than complexity. Okay. Now, okay, so on this, are you guys tracking me? You liking this stuff so far? Hopefully you're enjoying this, okay? You go on a break. That'll be your first break when you're done. When we come back and then you do the setup, blah, 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 we're going to have our speaker. And you could do a couple things here. Like you edified the room a lot in the first talk, so you don't need to have one of your mastermind members right after that, unless you have a really good speaker right after that. I would recommend you use one of your Keynote slots. And this could be a vendor. This could be a niche industry expert. This could be something like that. But, you know, you really want somebody good. It's the first morning. You want them being like, you want them by lunch going, man, like, this was by far, I already got my money's worth. That's what you want to have experience. So I would make sure that whatever the after the break talk is a really punchy, good talk, okay? And you'll probably hear me say that a couple more times. Have them go for, say, an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, more like an hour. That brings you about 11:45. And then you're going to have a little wiggle room here. You're going to have about day one. You can always go a little longer than day two, in my opinion, because day two, you want to wrap up at your mastermind pitch right after that. And we're going to go to lunch. I recommend before going to lunch, having, if you're doing the contest, this is where you'd have one or two of your open the kimono contest people. You'd have better your best contest and whatever it might look like on that. Okay. Oh, one more thing. I forgot to say this before. If you're sending out to your whole list of people, let's say you have 300 customers, whatever. Let's say you have 30 mastermind guys, and you got your team works really hard to get them to send in a 5-minute video of like, here's the 3 things I got from the mastermind. I want to be a part of the contest. What we do is we take all those little videos, we accumulate them, and we send them out to your existing leads, because so this becomes prior. I meant to mention this earlier. It becomes really a marketing campaign for you. Okay. Super duper important to understand that. Okay. All right. So we take it out, we'll go to lunch. And then again, you know, the 1:30, you can do a couple things here. Number one, you could teach something for 15, 20 minutes. Like, hey, when we come back in here, I want to show you guys something really, really cool, blah, 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 blah. And then you bring a keynoter or another speaker. Really, really good way to do it. You know, I like having something punchy right after lunch. I like going into lunch saying, hey, when you come back, we're going to have, and then this is where you'd have like someone that you know the whole room would be excited to be a part of it. Okay. Then 2:15 to say 3:30. I just screwed up the time. Hold on a second. Okay, yeah, that's where we're going there. So then the keynote would come in around 1:30. Now, I give an hour for that, but like the reason is because you're gonna do some intro. You know, like I always like linking back to what we did in the morning. So how many thought the morning is pretty amazing? Because people are coming in. Cool. What's one thing you learned? Boom. What's one thing you learned? You know, maybe do another $50 idea. Who knows, right? Who got a $50 a day idea from the morning? That's only one framework. You can use a lot of different frameworks to do that. At 2:30, 2:15, or 2:30, 2:45, you got about 45 minutes there before your next break. That is definitely where, if you're running a contest or you just want to highlight your mastermind, you have 1 or 3 of them, and it could be niched. It could be about traffic. It could be about conversion. It could be about scaling. It could be about leadership. You could do it that way too. Or you set up 3 of them to do a quick little 12-minute talk, and they rock it out. You do a little debrief, and then you jump into a quick break after that. Okay. Okay. Now, when you come off the break, this is super important. This is where it depends on your goals, right? Depends on your goals and what you're trying to do here. But if you have like a specific expert on a specific topic that's going to be action-packed and punchy, this is a good place to do it, right? And you give them 45 minutes to do it, okay? If you don't necessarily have that and your whole goal is like, Ed, I just want people to talk about what we're doing for our clients and get them cranked up for it, then it could be like you for the first 15 minutes, and then you bring up 2 more of your mastermind guys to share their experiences, okay? And so your goal with that is we just got to get to like 5 or 6 minimum mastermind guys talk before we do the panel and before you pitch. Now, this next talk is super important, and so I'm going to switch over. But this will go from 4:30 all the way to 5:30. Okay, and this is where we go into, say, like my pre-pitch for you to set it up. Okay, actually, you could probably see it a lot better if I just leave it here, right? So that's right there. Let me find the slide for you because I want to talk to you about it. Okay, so this was super important, that does a lot of selling for you. Okay, so so this is why you would want a wingman of some sort, okay? So let me explain this. It's not you. These are all principles you can cover, because I don't think you can cover them enough. But these are the questions that we want to answer before they ask it. So what do they need to believe before they buy the offer? So let me walk through it. These are where you like the time collapsing pitch right here in this book, combined with a third party doing it, is where the power is. Okay. Winners invest in themselves, losers don't. Now, if you're sitting there, actually, you could say this as much as you want. The power of the 5 people that you surround yourself with is who you are. So that is overused, but guess what? It's one of those universal truths. You may have heard this before, but let me ask, are you living it? Right? Let me tell you a quick story. Okay. Successful people invest in themselves above all else. We're going to anchor this back down later when we do the pitch, and when we do a repitch, we're anchoring back to this as well. So these are the fundamental things. Like I used to always use Lance Armstrong, and the most common one is probably like Michael Jordan. People use Michael Jordan like probably too much, but that's one of the big things now. And then, but successful people have 3 to 4 things in common. So let's go through what they are. Okay. Number 1, they know exactly who they want to be like. They know the model. And then when you go into that pitch of like if you don't know your model, then you have no clear perspective and direction on where you're going to go, and you're just kind of like a boat drifting at sea, going one thing to the other side of it. Where when you have a model, you can have 2 people. One could be more talented, but the one that's less talented, but has clarity on who they're following and trying to model and be a part of, like an athlete, is going to get more success than the person that's more talented. Now, number 2 is, and then I add to that, I usually say something like, and then what I always like to say is like, if you're following a model, you need to do exactly what the model does until you can replicate the same or better results before you modify the model. Now, there's small distinctions in that, personality, your talents versus them, and I go into that a little bit. But this right here, folks, is like, it's very, very good selling points. Okay. Number 2, the model is the player in the game. The mentor is the wise one who understands what the whole layout of the field looks like, and either individually has already gone down that field, or maybe they have worked with so many people, they just have a different perspective. So you need a mentor and a model. Okay. Raise your hands if you got both right now. Raise your hands if you need it. Raise your hands if you have them in these 3 categories. And then we always find the gap. So all I'm trying to do there is create gap. And that's what you'd want to do here. They're missing it. Okay. Lone wolf does it on their own, dies during the winter. The pack survives. Those types of analogies and stories work really, really well right there. Okay. So that's kind of that one. Oh, and then right here, I think a limiting belief too would be like successful people. Why do successful people are more likely to invest in mentors and consulting, even though they're already successful, versus unsuccessful people, right? So it's just an interesting thing, like, where some people are like, well, I'm not successful yet, so I don't need a mentor. No, you need a mentor to be the one who is successful. Okay, law of doing it wrong versus time of correction. Okay, this is really important, because now when we start anchoring early on day 1 is that cost of doing it wrong costs you way more money than what we're going to ask you to invest tomorrow. I don't say it that way, but what we do say is like, okay, what is the real cost of doing it wrong? Like, you don't know all these $50 a day ideas. How many of you didn't know some of these, right? Okay, cool. So that means you didn't know it. So then we say like, this is what is already in the world, and here's your current knowledge. So the cost of not being in this room is that not what your tuition of being in the room. And so tomorrow, I know that Vince is going to have an opportunity for you to be a part of something that, I don't know, I've been here for the full day. This place is pretty special, guys. How many of you agree this is special? You see how it's working right there? And yes, you could do, by the way, this part you can do on your own. I'm just letting you know this. You could do it on your own. And I would say in your first talk, some of these principles have to be covered. But there's nothing more powerful than a third party. Like when I had Tim Paulson, this is where he would do it. Day 1, right before dinner, end of the day, wraps up. It's the last thing they hear about, right? And so this one here creates on a financial and time level opportunity cost. And so what the story on this one is like, look, what they found is that if somebody in sports and in whatever, if they've done something wrong for say 3 years, I forget what the exact is, I got to look it back up, but it's like it takes them close to 10,000 repetitions to correct it and do it right. Versus if you knew nothing and I took you from scratch and we were able to get the right model in front of you and then we got you in front of the right reps, it would take you like 1,000 repetitions to be in the top 20% of anything. How many like to be in the top 20%? Right. So it doesn't matter what you don't know today. Actually, what you don't know is the advantage that we're actually working with. Does that make sense? So super powerful frame. Never be alone again. You get the idea right there. Okay. Third party application. Okay. So let me actually go back to the outline because this is super important. I'll go to this part of the outline. Hold on, guys. Sorry. Oh, let me go over a couple more points. I missed this slide. This is a little more of it. Like money's attracted to speed has to get covered. Power of the mastermind. You're only one person, one deal, one partner, one perception away. The perception one's super powerful. Power of multiplied testing and compounding wisdom. That has to get covered. The power of 1 and 1 doesn't equal 2. It actually creates 11. I'm glad I went backwards. And so then I go into, here's actually my chapter there. Okay. Super, really, really good stuff. Okay, back at the outline. So I'm back at the outline and I started bringing up the panel. I'll get to the panel in a second. Okay, on night 1 though, this is super important. When I'm done with my setup pitch, we're going to do like 1 of 2 things. One is there's going to be a number of books, and like whether we do the books, like everybody gets a book, or there's something special that I've never publicly shared. There's 100 of you here. Good news, bad news. I only got 55 of them here. Maybe I only got 35. Okay. Now, before you get up and run to the back of the room and grab one, this is what I need to tell you about it. And I tell a story. And the only thing I ask is that you make a donation. Okay. And you're going to make a donation, and then I'll talk to you about like a charity reveal there. And it could be whatever you want to pay. My only ask is it's got to be more than $5, and you don't need to go anything crazy. Like we're not measuring it, nothing like that. I just want to do it because it creates goodwill in the room. And the only other thing I ask is that you do it before you leave the room. Okay. This has to get done before you leave the room. And there's 2 reasons for that. I talk about money's attracted to speed. And we talk about how winners make fast decisions and get moving. And the reason why we do that is because I want them to stand up, go to the back of the room and take out their credit card and donate right there. Okay. And then I send them out, not you, send them out right then for the evening. Okay. And I'll set it up, but it's the first table rush of the event. And that is what begins and removes the awkwardness of standing up and going to the end of the room. Now, there's a couple ways we can do that too. Like if you're like, well, Ed, I want to do my announcements and do stuff. Yep, you can do that. So which means before I drop the reveal, we do a 60-second announcement from Vince. Vince is going to get up here and tell you 60-second announcement. I have one special thing. Do not move from your seats because I have one thing I'm going to tell you. Vince, what do we got to know for tomorrow? Boom, boom, boom. Be back here. Drinks are tonight at this time. Platinum only dinners at 7:30 after happy hour. Got it. They're going to be where? Here for what? Cool. I'm going to add one announcement. Boom. I give it. Sum it up. Okay. Here's how you do it. Now here's my little ask, guys. And then we do end, play the music. Boom. Wrap it up. Drinks are waiting at the bar. Your coupons here. And then anybody who's going to grab your free gift after you donate, it's happening right now. Okay. It's happening right now. And so then people get there. And guys, what happens there is that you're going to start seeing the first group of people learn how to rush to the back of the room and say, I'm in. Okay. So that's pretty powerful. So that's day 1. I mean, man, we've been going for over an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes. So good job on that. On the evening of it, I want to challenge you on 2 things. One is you could do that night, platinum only dinner, after the happy hour. And then I always recommend, I just like it. Maybe it's, you know, I like all the other people finding a way to mingle. And so that's a big thing. We just talk about separately. Like I like saying, hey, we're putting $1,000 on the bar or whatever it might be at this time, this place. And they all come back and now they like met all their new friends and they're doing that. Okay. All right. So day 2, let's go into it now. Kickoff votes. Okay. So the opening of a lot of these things, again, I recap. You want to recap, go back to $50 a day. I do it popcorn style. This could be a little more popcorn style. You don't have to have it as scripted because you're like, hey, who's got a $50 a day idea? Who's got this? I mean, you can do that a little bit. If we're doing a contest, we announce it this time. Hey, contests need to be, or tickets need to be in by lunch. Not tickets, votes need to be in by lunch. And then we're going to say maybe the schedule for the day for your fact finders. And then you have keynote number 1. Boom. Depends on the niche, industry, whatever. I don't even want to go into what you should have there. Just like anything though, it should be a reason why people will want to wake up and go to the event. So you got to think this through a little bit. Okay. After they're done, we do a break. Now we're going to do, I recommend almost here. This is where I think it'd be great if you're like, whoever is the leader of the coaching club, it could be like, if there's 4 of you, that's fine. I don't care who it is. Like, but this is another thing like, hey, we're going to go through action steps. Boom, boom, boom. Here's something cool. Maybe we have our last 1, 2, or 3 success stories. And then we're about to head into lunch and all the votes need to be put in. Okay. Because when we come back, we're going to be going over our success panel. And then that's where the mastermind pitch usually comes into play. All of these things can move up and down depending on the ultimate goal and your kind of what you're trying to accomplish here. Okay. But I'm going to go through these last 3 things before maybe a couple more notes. And then I'm going to wrap this training up. Hopefully you felt like this was super valuable. I mean, one distinction out of all these things, guys, is lights out, changes things. For the success panel, that would be facilitated by me, okay, or a wing person. It should not be you, okay? Because what you're going to ask them to do is brag about you and brag about the club. So it just looks better when it's not you. I've done it both ways, okay? So let me go through what that looks like a little bit. And this was when Tim was the first one that did it for me, where I was like, oh, this is a game changer. And then I would hire, like, he wasn't always, if he was 50K the first year, and then James was a little less than that. And so not by a lot, but James was a good friend of mine and somebody who could do it. I had Bill Rancic do it one year and Bill was okay, but Bill was kind of a celebrity. So when celebrities do it, people are more enamored with them than they are the fact that you're trying to get the spotlight focused on your group, right? And so like this is an example of me leading a panel at one of my events. This was actually like a traffic panel. So it's all good. I wasn't doing a brag about Ed panel. But when Tim did this for me, it was so great. So you ask 3 questions, guys. You go, what's your name? Where are you from? Why'd you join the mastermind? That's it. Why are you working with Ed? Blah, blah, blah. And then number 2 is, what is one piece of advice that could be that you've added in your business as a direct result of being a client, part of the coaching club, whatever it might be, that you want to share with the group that could create value for the group. So now it's attributing the relationship from you in there, blah, blah, cool. And then the last question is, how would you describe, and then we say your name. What would you say about Ed O'Keefe? What would you say about Tim Paulson? And that's where, like, if it's you got to make sure it's the right people on your stage. And you got to follow those sequence. Those are the 3 questions. Don't deviate from my questions. Trust me, these are the questions, right? It'll keep people succinct. It'll keep people effective. And it'll transform your life. Okay? So when you do that, the room is going to fall in love with you. Okay? And then the wingman, when it's all over, so if you have, say, 6 people, 7 people, not more than that. I'm trying to think of the timeline. If you go more than that, you just got to make sure that you talk to each one of these guys and say, look, when I ask you, like, what's your one thing that you got from it, they can't be and on up there. It's got to be clean and effective. If it's done that way, it'll be great. I've seen guys bring 30 people up there and it was very disorganized. And when it's very disorganized, the room's going to know and they're going to start checking out. Okay. So that's my thoughts on that. Okay. But this is by far a must-have in any virtual event. You could do it on a challenge, 3-day event, power day. You could do it 2 people, 1 people, 3 people. Those are some good questions. After you're done with that, that is where, let me make sure I got this correctly laid out for you guys. That is where, yeah, you may want to put a speaker right before the success panel. I'm trying to do my math here on my, this for you guys. 1 hour of the success panel to 2:30. 2:30 to about 3 pitch. It's not too bad. Then we come back in for the winner announced. Yeah, you might want like 1 good speaker. The challenge, the reason why I don't want to push it off too far, the reason I like having that there is because the mistake happens, and I've seen this happen, man, where you're waiting till 5 o'clock to pitch the mastermind on day 2, and the room is exhausted, and you just get a flat response. Okay. So that's not what we want. So right after that, you come up, you do your pitch. At this point, you don't need to do a long pitch, right? You re-anchor back to everything that's kind of set up, why you started the mastermind, why this is so important, why the coaching club's so valuable. You re-hit story number 1, story number 2, story number 3. All these people are changing people's lives because they're a part of this group. Blah, blah, blah. And that's why I'd like to invite you to be a part of this, okay? And so let me walk you through the details. Now, I do have a special offer today that if you take action today, there's certain things you get that is going to reward fast movers, and you go through the languaging, and then you go through everything they get, okay? Now, if you have any personal stories, anything that is just passion from the heart, that's where that goes, okay? And this doesn't need to get overcomplicated at this point. You're going to find that 70% of the people that want in are going to buy, even if you screw this up a little bit. I don't know if that's totally true, but like you don't have to be like, you don't have to be the world's greatest speaker to close the room on this, because you've already done all the heavy lifting's been done, right? So then they go in, we have a pitch, they go out, right? So after that, let's say we do an extended break after that. And that will allow people to sign up right then and there. And there's a bonus to sign up on that break. Okay. Now, what kind of bonuses? I mean, that's where some creativity comes into place here, because if it's the first time you're ever doing this, you could cap it at a number of people. There's 100 of you in the room. We're only taking 25 spots. First 100 or first 25 back there. We're gonna number you 1 in the order that we get your application. And then if you're after that, you'll go on the wait list. Okay. Bonus number 2 might be next month, we're going to be hosting a private day at my house, my lake house, my castle at XYZ, whatever it might be. You just want to make sure it's sexy, attractive, and people are going to want to do that. Okay. The other thing is, if you have a bonus that is worth more than the cost of the mastermind, but because of your relationships, because of whatever, you're able to do it and to make that price disappear that everybody wants. The key thing is people got to want it, right? And so that's going to happen that night. And then if you're in platinum, or if you're in whatever, after the break, we're going to come back. We'll announce the winners for the Rolodex or the Rolex or the car, whatever it might be. And then we're immediately going to have the party. And platinums, though, you're going to jump on the party bus, and we're going to go somewhere private and exclusive for platinum only 1 hour. If they're in so far, guys, if we've done our work properly, they're all going to want to be there. Nobody wants to get left out. And then, your call to action is, I just need a down payment today of X dollar, right? If you're doing financing, get the down payment down right now, and then we'll run your financing. We'll figure out what your payments are for tomorrow morning. My team will do that with funding people in the back of the room. So you're just removing all the ways that people can say they're going to wait till tomorrow. Okay. Now, when we go back to this, we're going to do the next day. This is the other part of this, which is the last part I'm going to talk about today, which is the re-pitch. Okay. I also like to call this the fence tipper cleanup campaign. Okay. Now, this is something that I always did myself until I saw a couple guys doing this ridiculously successful, making a business out of it. And I was like, dude, I can do that better than they can do it. So I'm going to go do it. Right. And that is it can happen, like say we're doing a 3-day event, it can happen on day 3 after all your applications have come in and you're like, Ed, I know there's more people out there that can buy, right? There's more people that can buy. Okay. And what we do is we do a talk, like 9 outside the box strategies for blank, 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 whatever it might be for your niche, right? And then I think I also put in here, you'll see it on here, 7 ways to do XYZ, or the number one lie you've been told and why you keep failing. That's another angle on this, right? And so this is the part where, again, I'm not trying to sell myself to you. I'm just giving you an example. Like, this is what you should be doing here, right? Is you repitch it for all the people that, for whatever reason, didn't move forward with it. And here's the thing about this. All the people who did go forward with it, this repitched talk cements the reason and rewards them with a bonus for jumping in. So there's only gain. Like, we're going to clean up some people that were not in the event or that didn't buy yet, and you're going to re-edify the people that did buy. Okay. So the timing of this, I think I just covered it, so I'm not going to go into that right now. But here's kind of like the layout of the content, right? The lie that holds you back, right? And so number one goal is just we're destroying false belief systems. We're going to destroy false belief systems and their justifications they're making to themselves for not moving forward. You've been told you just got to work hard. If everybody worked hard, then we'd all already be wealthy and rich, right? How many work hard and you're not wealthy and rich where you want to be? Or actually a better phrase would be, how many are working really, really hard and realize that it's still not work. Hard work can't be the only part of the equation, because then you'd have everything figured out. How many agree with that? I don't need others. I'm a lone wolf. Now, this is an underlying thought that if I have a long list, I can do it on my own. I've always done things on my own. I don't need others. Well, we smash that, because lone wolves die in the winter alone. Pack survives. I have a long list to tackle. I'm too busy. Not a problem. You have a long list. Guess what? In a week, you're going to feel alone. Number 2 is, who's going to be there to encourage you to get done? Our weekly meetings encourage you to get done. Like, we just go through that. Not sure what my spouse will say. Well, I could tell a couple stories about getting permission from people. Are you both running the business together? Well, if you're both running the business together, then you should have been on the phone last night already getting the green light, because this is going to grow your business faster than anything else you've ever done. If you aren't running the business together, but you're asking somebody who's not the business owner to make a decision about your financial future, and you've been anointed the person in charge of the business, then you're either allowing your spouse who's not qualified to run your business, or you just aren't being proactive and you're afraid and you're looking for permission and trust of other people, when the fact of the matter is you got to create the permission in order to build the trust and get the results in order to now have more permission and trust to do more of these types of things. But in 1 year, if you want to be in this place, blah, 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 then, doing what you already done, always overdone, is only going to get you more of what you ever gotten, right? Or else you wouldn't be here right now. Make investment to zero. That's where I do the trade thing. Like, how many would take $2 how many give me $1 if I gave you $2 back? Boom. How many would give me $10 if I gave you $100 back? How many give you $1,000 if I give you $10,000 back, right? How many give me $10,000 if I give $100,000 back? How many give me $100,000 if I can give you $1 million back? Now, out of all those trades, if you only pick one, which one would you rather have? Well, you're not going to give me $1 and get $2 back. So the thing is that if you want the big payoff, you got to be willing to look at money differently. You got to realize that you can't multiply something that you're not investing in. That's why specialized knowledge is expensive. That's why the most wealthiest people in Think and Grow Rich came from a mastermind, right? The lie that holds you back. We all can succeed faster and together. A lot of people are what they call rugged individuals. So rugged individualism has gotten you to this phase. I got that, I think, from Dan Sullivan and Strategic Coach. But the fact is that you're going to get a lot faster with a different vehicle, and you're going to get faster with different people. And then that's where you talk a little bit about, like, if you and I are in a race, but you're more talented than I, but I'm on a bike, who's going to win? Me on a bike. If you're on a bike now and we're on a bike, but you're more talented than I, well, you're going to win. But what if I'm driving a car, right? And you now have a car. Well, what if I'm driving an airplane? See what I'm saying? Like, it's about the vehicle we're choosing, and this room is the vehicle that's going to get you somewhere faster, because more power, more leverage. You're thinking, maybe I'll just put this off once I get there. And once I get through my checklist, man, I'll be ready for this. Let me just tell you, be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. Anytime I've ever heard somebody tell me that they're going to be ready in 3 months, I never meet them back again in 3 months. They never come back. Why is it? Well, because they're in an ADD economy, right? They're looking for permission everywhere they go. So every distraction that comes down their doorway, they're going that other place. If you're worried about the money, let me just say this. I'd be more worried about you because you don't move forward with this, because you're not investing in yourself. And if you're not investing in yourself, how's the world going to invest in you? It's not going to happen, right? So if we're offering, if money is the thing, then here's the deal. Then you need to ask yourself, like, am I willing to put a down payment? Am I willing to get the financing? Am I willing to do the thing to get me in the room that I need to be in the room to become the person I need to be? So, that's where you keep focused on what you're going to do, but I'm more worried about who you are. And so what we're just trying to do is get a bunch of yes sets based on insight. Like, oh man, he's right. Oh man, it is right. Oh, yeah, he's right. Yeah, he's right. Yeah. But it's all high achievement stuff. So it's not like beating them up. It's actually lifting them up through the path of saying what you think is going to get you there is not getting you there. So that's what all happens. Why are they resisting? Not content issue, not work hard issue. It's your identity is lying to you. And then I do the trade for dollar. I've already talked about it. Talk about, we re-anchor this. Poor people ask about the cost of things. Rich people ask the worth of things. That's what actually I'm going to talk about in my time collapsing thing. I'd recommend you talk about that at the beginning of your opening. By the way, for some of you guys who are watching this, you're running mastermind events coming up. Can I just encourage you to take this list and use it in your next mastermind meeting? So you're going to be like, Ed, everybody knows this. That's why they join the mastermind. No, they don't. They need to be reinforced as to what a wise decision. And remember, this is why we're here. This is why we're here. This is why we're doing it. Everybody, yes, so this weekend, it's not about what we're doing together. It's about who we're becoming together, which means you need to become someone higher and bigger and better. And we do that by contributing to each other. See how it just shifted the focus from them being learners to them being givers? And so if you have an environment that is about giving, everybody's going to get better. We're all going to succeed. And then me as your mentor, I'm just going to help facilitate that. Now, I have a few things I'm going to share are going to really be really good, but really that's our whole purpose, right? Together, each achieve more. Concept team. 1 makes 11, not 2. So anyhow, so we're re-anchoring a lot of those things. You can't re-anchor those things enough, okay? And then as I go through that, so I go through the whole thing. They have no idea that I'm just been selling them on your mastermind for all the people that didn't buy. And then so what we do there is we have a $10,000, maybe $20,000, maybe $25,000 bonus, depending on what your price point is, that they would get access to. Sorry for the yawn. My goal was to get this done in like 75 minutes. We're now at an hour and a half. And they get access to when they jump in your program. And when they jump in your program, guys, they get access to it. It'll be an intensive training. Charge people $10K to be there. You get it absolutely free when you make an investment in yourself today, right? Making an investment in yourself today will make it super easy for you. All you need is put down the down payment or go back, talk to Susie and see what they can do on creative financing, okay? Now, the whole thing, guys, it's just like a sales pitch. The setup, the pitch, handling objections, ensure you're hitting all the key points, inspire them, and future pace them. That is the whole purpose of your entire event, right? Now, last thing I like doing, I want to cover 2 more notes. I'm letting you go here. Number 1, I have a thing that when I used to work with teenagers week long, that's how I got good at speaking, is I was doing like accelerated learning events or teenagers, right? What you're just going to do after lunch, you do another thing, they have a chance on lunch to do. Now you're going to go up and lead what I call a give, ask, take question. Give, ask, take, where you get up there, hey, I'd like to, we just do 45 minutes of giving, asking, taking for the group. What we're trying to do there is just create an environment where they are excited. I think you guys are able to see that, right? Oh, here it is. Give, ask, take, and then they're excited to share. Like, what's one thing that you can give to the group? What's one thing that you are still hoping you to get from the weekend? I have found that instead of doing a Q&A to wrap up the event, if you're going to go to 5 o'clock on this, just have a keynote speaker here, okay? And then you have a break, and then we do the last hour and a half where it's like, who has something they want to give, who has something they want to take, who has an ask or a question. You're going to get testimonials from it. You're going to get collaboration from it. It's a great feel-good way to finish off the thing. If you still have room for another keynote speaker or something like that, I would just bring in a motivational speaker, pay $5,000, $7,500, somebody motivational, and that's that. So up in the training, you should have this whole PowerPoint. You should have the calendar, and then I'm going to give you my checklist that I got from Tim Paulson. I've modified this, by the way, but you're going to see this is going to be up there. I paid 50 grand for this, folks, just so you know. This and a lot of the advice I was given, I paid a lot of money for it, so that you're not, just because this is simple, just because you didn't invest a lot of money, I just poured a lot of energy into this thing for you guys. Okay. Now, the other thing to look at is I got another little PDF I'm going to put up there as another checklist. And then keep an eye out. We have a couple things coming up that if you're interested in doing it, and you want to work on like your event, your offer, like I said before, we have these 2-day intensives coming up. If you are interested in having me consult with you on your event and possibly do some wingman pitching, I can walk you through what that looks like. Just let me know. Reach out to us at ed@offerwingman.com or reply to the email you get from customer support. Just put wingman, and maybe you just leave a paragraph of like some of the stuff you got going on. And then, yeah, man, I mean, great having you here. If you just want some coaching club stuff, you could do that. But really, I'd encourage you to just kind of get after this. Like, you got everything you need here. I mean, this is really good stuff. And, oh, one more thing. We didn't really go into the pitch much. So what I did is I just went ahead and like, here's my checklist, guys. This is my slides. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. And it's a conglomeration. You'll see one of my sales pitches I did for Roland Frazier on how he sold consulting for equity. So you're going to see some of that offer sequence stuff. But, yeah. So I think that's it, man. I'm going to go get a workout in, and appreciate you. Hopefully you thought this was super cool and awesome, and I appreciate you. Have an amazing one. All right, bye.